kind of looking at what the subtext is behind the question. And I think it goes back to what I was saying about how much background work have you done? How much homework have you done about what, that job area is trying to achieve, what that directorate or department is trying to achieve, what their problems are? Have you looked them up, questioned people in their teams? And that will give you more of an idea of the general direction of where the questions are coming from. But I would also think, challenge the whole concept of decoding as well, because most of the time people are just being straight with you in an interview and are just as curious about you as you are about the job as well. So I think I would also take the question at face value. Obviously practice and rehearse what kind of questions might come up, but don't be too scripted in your head, because that will take away your sparkle a bit, and you will start sounding a bit like a robot or an automaton if you're just reading out your scripted, rehearsed answers. And there's a risk to that as well, in that you might not hear the question properly. So you might not be decoding it properly because you're answering something you've prepared rather than something you've heard. So I think, yeah, of course, prepare and practice and do mock interviews, but be ready to be natural as well, and to kind of think on the spot. So developing thinking on the spot techniques is quite important too.
I'm going to suggest that the foundation, in my experience, and I've been on many, many panel interviews, one-on-one interviews, competitive interviews and formal interviews. The structure, especially in the case where it's a competitive interview, is really important. The foundation of the interviews are the competencies or the qualifications that people are trying to assess. And so in competitive interviews, the backdrop of every question, of every response, is the qualification that's being assessed. And I really do think that it's so important for people when they're preparing for an interview to really understand what qualifications are being assessed, and to have that be the basis for your structure of how you respond. You can sparkle and you can tell your stories on a foundation where the qualification that you're actually responding to. So every story, every anecdote, every context, every piece of evidence that's provided should go towards the qualifications. And I find too often people, they lose track of that. We forget that what we're really trying to do here is give evidence of our merit for the position, for the job that we're applying to. And that structure, I just find it can be really enabling. It can really help people if we really understand that structure and we work within it, and we know what is it that we're trying to respond to, what need for an evaluation or evidence is it that we're trying to respond to. And then that opens up that world of, how do I provide that evidence? How do I tell that story? How do I use that structure that I have about how I respond to show that? And everything should always relate back to those qualifications. So when you get prompted, and I've seen other questions in there about how do you prepare for unexpected questions, you always want to think about, what are the qualifications that are being sought here generally, and to really know that ahead of time, to understand and have a good grasp on the qualifications that you're giving stories, or you're telling stories, you're giving evidence to support. And that structure, I find, can really, for me, maybe not for everybody, but it calms the nerves. It reminds us, it gives us that preparation, that foundation that we can build on, make sure that we're always responding to questions that relate to the qualifications. And that's the link that we're making, is back to the qualifications. And that's kind of that reading between the lines. And for me, hearing that subtext is like understanding that a question is being asked because you're being expected to give evidence about the qualifications for the job. And I think it's really important to always make that connection.